Hi there and welcome back to the Amazing Collection Unboxing. We are on a sad day today. This is box number 106 and the last box of the collection that I can find at this time. It's been moved around my house so many times. I might have lost one or two. And in addition, since I'm doing my accounting on pencil and paper, there was two of box like 64 and 65. So anyway, there are at least 108 boxes running around, but this will be the last video of this type. And I saved this box because it's a special box. Because the collector conveniently labeled the outside Breyer, Bison, a special bull, and two special run hogs. And I have a story about one of these, so when we get to it, it'll be story time. I think you will enjoy this box. I know that I will. And let's start. So first we have one of the Bison. This is a regular brown Bison, sculpted by Chris Hess, first issued in 1965, issued in the original brown color through the early 1990s. He's in good condition, not awesome. Nice shading, nice coloring, but just an average example of this particular model. Next we have another Bison. Oh, this guy is a flocky. We saw a bunch of flockies many boxes ago. So this looks like a custom flocky to me, like either this collector commissioned it or bought it from someone at Breyerfest or online. It's not one of the original Ragsickers. This is a hobby flock job. Very nice. They did a good job. They even went so far as to give him bi eyes. And he's very dark on the forehand, red, kind of snow-capped over the top. A very nice example. This collector loved the animal molds. And so this is a really nice example of a flocked, very nicely flocked buffalo, but it would be put into a custom class in a show. Next we have one of our special run hogs. This guy is from Breyerfest 1998-ish. This is black, so mostly solid black with white on the legs and the nose. I don't think he had a special name. Very early in the Breyer Fest special run, so I want to say maybe 400 made, but all of them did get to collectors' hands. But he is still very popular because there wasn't a lot of special runs on the hog molds, and those people who collect the animals, and particularly the farm animal molds, love the special runs. So this was a long time ago now, 20 plus years ago, and a very small number, so he's still a pretty popular little guy. And I'm going to pick our next special run hog. Now this guy looks like one of the old ones. When I talk about some of the old special runs, this guy is one of those uber coveted, I think it was 1980. A bunch of hog associations went to Breyer and said, we'd like to do some special runs. And so they did like a Poland White, they did a Hampshire, a Yorkshire, I think this is a Duroc. So they did a bunch of special runs, very small numbers, and they all went to hog breeder associations, so they didn't come into the hobby. So this guy, all 400 went to Breyer collectors. This guy, all however many, but probably in the low hundreds, went to hog breeders. So these are super hard to come by, super popular, simply because there's so few in the hobby, because we as hobbyists didn't get a chance to buy them. They went out to these hog associations. So I think this is the Duroc from those hog associations from the 80s, and there's no marks on them. But for the most part, the only hogs that Breyer really did was the Jasper, the market hog, and I think maybe there's a spotted. So if you find any of these hog molds and like the browns, the spotteds, most of them are probably these older hog associations. So if you see one in a thrift store or an antique store, pick one up because those are super popular and very pricey. So our last piece in the box, our last piece of the collection is a story. And I was involved in this story, and that's why I wanted to keep this box for last. Because the collector nicely placed on the outside the Big Red 1 bull, special run 100 made. So I knew that this box had this model in it, and I've been saving it for the end. Now, back in the early 1990s, kind of in the mid-era of the Jamboree, Breyer Model Horse Collectors Jamboree held down in Pomona. It was at the Pomona Fairplex, so it was after we had moved out of the Red Lion, but it was before we moved into the big show hall. There was like a ballroom where you could rent a table. It was like the Breyer Fest swap meet, so collectors would rent tables and sell from them. And there was different artists there. I remember Sue Daw had one of the booths, and there was tack makers. So it was very much like a swap meet for the model horse collectors. And as you walked into the hall that year, off to the left was Nancy Young. And I was standing and talking to her, and I think I bought a couple of models probably from her. And there was this commotion because it was right at the entrance. And this dude was bringing in piles of boxes, piles and piles. It was like 100 boxes, piles, and he was just basically throwing them on the floor. It wasn't a vendor, it was just some dude that was getting rid of a collection. I never heard the story. I don't remember what year this was, but I remember I was talking to Nancy and we both looked over, and it was literally a feeding frenzy. People were throwing stuff because the models were wrapped up. And people were just digging. It was like an estate sale where you were just digging stuff out of boxes and models were flying. And I said to Nancy, I'll be back in a minute. And I dove in. And I think I got a couple of models, nothing really super spectacular. But I reached in, and you were literally arm wrestling people at some points. I reached in and I grabbed this model and I picked him up and I knew what he was. So this is the Big Red 1. He was a special run from 1984, one of the most popular and rare special runs. Like we talked about the hog breeders, this was made for a cattle breeders association. So this is on, I think the Chianina, no, he's on the Black Angus mold, but he's painted red after a portrait, after a bull called the Big Red 1. All of these models disappeared into cattle breeders associations. None of them came to us in the hobby. And he is super popular. So I dove in, I grabbed this model, and I saw what it was, and I turned around, and I saw John behind me. And I went, here, you need to buy this. And I handed it to him, and his eyes got about this big, and he went, I don't think he let go of it for the rest of the day. I think he was carrying it around the hotel like this that night. And he went and bought it, and I dove back in. Like I said, I don't think I bought anything really of note, but I do remember what I bought from Nancy Young that year. But I remember grabbing this model. It was on my want list too, because you got to have the rare, and these are so hard to come by and so scarce. I was tempted, but when I turned around and I saw him, I was like, oh, you have to have this. This is for you. And so I'm very happy he has come back into my house. He might stay here for a while. We'll see. If I decide to keep him, I probably will, because the story's making me tear up. But anyway, that's the model horse hobby. Collectors, collections, and friends. And stories, and telling those stories years afterwards. You remember that time that guy came in and I gave this model to you? Don't know what he paid, but I think that dude was selling everything super cheap. It wasn't his collection. He was just getting rid of it. So we have some super fun stuff here. it was a fun run, wasn't it? We learned a lot, we had some fun, told some stories, and I will keep it up with videos. I don't know what I'm going to do, probably some more history stuff, because that's what I love, and telling more stories. I hope you enjoyed, and join me next week. Thank you.